All right, top of the morning. So I have a couple of different videos on here, um, or not a couple of videos, a couple of questions on my Discord that are in the Ask HershNoeie section. And so I'm going to tackle the bottom one first so I can deal with the top one later, because the top one, I got to head out here in a second. The top one's going to take me some time to actually dissect a little bit, and I don't have much time. So make sure you join the Discord. It's going to be down in the description box below. We talk about various different things, and also it's where people can post questions and I can jump right on it, right? So this person says, "Hi Hirsch, do you have any advice for making friends as an adult? As I get older, I've noticed that I have trouble relating to the people I grew up with. They all have completely different lifestyles, and it seems like there's zero chemistry in our friendship. I find most of the people I work with unbearable, so I can never imagine hanging out with them outside of work. Almost every older person I've spoken to has told me that once you hit your mid 30s, you basically lose all your friends and social life. The person that, um, yeah, the people who told you that were older that says that once you hit your mid 30s, you lose all of your friends is absolutely correct. Now there are some exceptions, obviously, but I would say they're pretty correct. Now I'm going to go into a little area that's a little kind of uh, back when I was during my gallivanting days, and you had women who were considered cougars. Now some people don't like that term and whatnot, but I mean that's kind of what back in the day, that's what people used to say. They probably say it now, right? But they seem to run in packs. This is horrible. But it's true. They seem to run in a group. And that's still the case today. Because you go on Facebook, there's a couple of different folks I know of. I don't know them personally. We're not friends, but whatever reason they added me on our HershNoeie. And they do the same thing. And so it's not always the case, but something that they have in common is that they like a particular type of guy, certain characteristics. They all like a particular type of guy. So that's something that they can relate on. They're similar age groups. They like a particular type of guy. They're in the same area. All of those things really matter. They've been friends for a while. So that makes sense. But I agree that once you get into your mid 30s, and in my case, yeah, it was probably early 30s. Yeah, all of the people that you were friends with, for the most part, or friend that I was friends with, we don't really talk. There's someone who I was really, really close to. And just, once I moved away, he and I don't really talk. Same with Noelle. Noelle had friends that she knew from a long time ago. And they're still, I think, on her Facebook maybe, but they don't talk. They used to talk every day, hang out every day. Excuse me. And after she got married, they stopped talking. They stopped really having conversations with her and, that type of thing. Now they're married. You see what I'm saying? And so Noelle got to a different stage in her life before they did, even though they were the same age. But it just instantly, just like that, stopped. So, and it could be because obviously Noelle was at a different point in her life. They were no longer just, girls freshly out of college and entering their professional life, because at that point Noelle had went and got her master's and all that stuff. I was with her at that time, which was, it's expensive. But, I think at that point in time, she had already started a whole completely different journey, different from them. And so it's kind of like, I don't know. And they were with guys, they were dating these guys that they eventually married to, much longer than Noelle and I did. Right? So I was new on the scene, and Noelle had gotten, a divorce and whatnot. And She was single, and then boom, I came along, and a year later, we got married. So we moved fast. So a lot of her friends just, I assume, couldn't relate to that. And the same thing goes for my friends. Even though they had a similar path later, at that time, we were just completely different. And then once we got married, Noelle and I, it was about building our relationship. And so it became even more different because it's way different to be boyfriend and girlfriend or even engaged or a fiance than having a spouse. It's way, 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 way different. And so, yeah, things change. Then once you get into your 30s, it's like you're ready to, either A, build your career up and go full steam, or you're ready to start your own business or whatever it is that you're doing. So some folks were still trying to navigate and figure out the whole, am I going to have a family or not? We had already solved that issue and had moved on. So we were already ahead. So we lost a lot of people in terms of our social circle. And me, of course, back in the day, I was out there. So I had a lot of friends that would party with me and hang out with me and all of that. And then that changed because once I got with Noelle, A, a lot of those people were women. B, a lot of those dudes were still wanting to party, like as a single person. You see what I'm saying? So it's not the same. So our lives changed. And then those who weren't really into the party, it just changed because I was a married guy. I was no longer a single dude. I couldn't relate as much as I used to in their circumstance. So, yeah, I agree with that statement. At least in our circumstance, that's what's happened. And so, yeah, it's happened with all of Noelle's friends. And the same thing goes for me. Now, I have some friends from Albuquerque that I still talk to. And I even have friends from Bowling Green. Back when I was in my 20s, we chat every now and again on, I actually have one set of friends. And I'm surprised that we would still even chat because we weren't really super, super close, but we still chat every now and again they're on Instagram only, which is probably the less of the evils. But yeah, I keep up with them. And then there's some people from Albuquerque, one or two that I keep up with. But the people that I was really, really close with, hung out with all the time, nope. It's just weird how that works because your life is different, right? My life is different than what his was or those guys were. Any advice for making friends as an adult? It's very hard because especially if you are a married guy, I don't know your circumstance. If you're a married guy, it's almost impossible because if you meet another guy and if he has a wife or a girlfriend, oftentimes in my experience, they don't want you to hang out that much because there's jealousies that come into play. Not jealous over me and him, but jealous that we're going to go to a bar or something and, we may get hit on or something like that, or whatever the case may be. That has been my experience in 95% of the circumstances. It just does. So you have less and less and less opportunities just from that standpoint. When it comes to having females as friends, a lot of guys say you can't have a female as a friend. A lot of times women will not be a friend of yours because if you have a wife or a girlfriend, that cuts out a huge chunk of women because they're either A, feel like it's going to be a potential problem or whatever the case may be, or B, just uncomfortable. So that doesn't happen. So when you're a guy and you're married, the opportunities on either end is very limited. If you have a single guy friend, you're probably going to be it's going to be a little bit easier because you don't have to deal with all of that. The pressure of another person, the person that they're with, kind of controlling the situation. I'm sorry, that's just been my circumstances. Typically, the person that they're with controls everything. And so not intentionally necessarily, and not even explicitly say you can't hang out, but it's just kind of that I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want there to be any questions. I don't want there to be any sort of potential problems or issues. So a lot of times guys just don't. unless you've been friends for a very, 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 very long time and before you knew the other person that you're in a relationship with, typically it doesn't happen. So as you get older, just the way that you relate to people is going to be completely different because your experiences are different. You know, like I grew up in a particular area and there was a certain viewpoint that I had at one point in time. And if you look at the way I am now, it's so drastically different. And the way that I looked at things in Indiana versus now is way different. So there's a lot of people I knew that now completely are turned off by me because my view used to be very similar to theirs. Maybe a little different, but kind of close. Now it's way, way different. So they don't really comment to me too much. They're still on my Facebook, but they don't talk to me much because they can't relate to that. It's a turnoff to them. And so that happens as you grow and as you mature and as you experience different things and you've left certain situations, different environments, you get to see things that maybe they aren't able to see. So I left the bubbles that I had often. I had a bubble in Bowling Green, Kentucky, moved to Indianapolis, left that bubble, went to Albuquerque, New Mexico, left that bubble, and lived in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. It's the same place, kind of. Left that bubble, moved to Seattle, left that bubble, went to Tacoma, right? So living in all those different places gave me a whole different perspective that I can pull from, that some of these other people that I was friends with, it's just not the case. And so now it's kind of like, unless you have that friend that you've been tight with, and there's some people I went to school with that are friends ever since they played in the sandbox. But unless you're in those circumstances, it's almost impossible, in my opinion. Now, there are some people, I have a friend that's in New Mexico who can find friends no matter where he goes. He's got that type of personality. He's just a funny, cool guy. It doesn't really matter where he's at. He's going to make friends. He's just that type of person. He's extremely likable. It's hard. It's hard not to be friends with him. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. So unless you're like that, which is great if you are, it's going to be more challenging. Now, when it comes to the people I work with now, I don't have an issue with the people that I work with now. I have 2 coworkers who are equal with me, and they're cool. Don't have a problem with them. They're amazing. But now, have I had instances in the past where there were people who I just couldn't stomach? Yeah. But I've always had some sort of work friend. But again, that's kind of, is it really true friendship? Because once you quit the job or they quit the job or whatever, then a lot of times that doesn't stand up either, right? So to answer your question, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how. I can't give you any advice on making friends. It's extremely difficult. It's extremely, extremely difficult. Because especially if you are a guy, it is very, and I don't know, it could be hard for a woman. I'm not a woman, but I'm saying from a guy's perspective, it's very, very hard. Noelle has more instances of being friends with people because guys are going to say, hey, I want to be friends with you. And she's the type that says, cool, no problem. You see what I'm saying? So she's opposite. Or other women will say, yeah, let's be friends, because oftentimes women kind of, I don't mean this in the wrong way, but women kind of dictate the relationship path a little bit. Once you're in a married relationship, they kind of dictate things a little bit more. So 2 married women, or a woman and a married woman and a single woman, not a big deal. Like that's a little bit easier, it seems. As long as everything else gels, like that's an easier path. I think if a guy says, I don't like her, then it's like, you're being controlling, but it doesn't work as easy when you're telling a woman, I don't like that. I don't like that dude. It's like you're controlling. But if she says, hey, I don't like that chick that you hang out with, then it's looked at as, you should respect that. It's true. So that's why a lot of times guys are a little hesitant about having any sort of female as a friend. And that's why women are hesitant to have a guy that's a friend, especially if if they're married or if they have a person that they're dating. They're very hesitant. And then making guy friends it's just difficult. In this area, it's even more challenging because in Seattle, folks there are just not as friendly. And I've met people who have lived up there and now moved down here, and you hear that sentiment that it's not impossible, but it's not as easy to make friends up there as it is opposed down here. And down here is not easy either. But you at least have the ability to make eye contact with people and, strike up a conversation a little bit more than you do up there. But yeah, I would say join. There's sometimes meetup groups that you can join. You can try that and see what happens. You can try joining some of the things on Facebook where if you have some particular interests, some of those are there. Those are things that I would say do. But again, it's hard, to be honest with you. And so a lot of my friends don't even live here. I mean, I'm being honest. All of my friends are at least 1,000 miles away. So that's kind of the circumstance. But anyhow, I don't know if I even answered your question, but I agree with what the very final statement is, that once you hit your mid-30s or even before that, you lose all your friends and your social life, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, before Noelle, I created my own social life because I had friends, but of course they had girlfriends and they didn't want them to hang out because he's a single guy. So I just went out by myself. I said, screw it. I don't have to worry about someone who's too drunk or leaves me, because we had friends where sometimes they get so drunk they'll leave, and then you're like, where'd they go? And you'll call them and they're like, oh, I'm home, or whatever the case may be. So I didn't have to worry about that. A lot of times I just lone wolf went out there by myself and had a whole lot of time to just be there. If I wanted to go to a different place, I did it. You know what I mean? I didn't have to worry about the drunk friend or getting thrown out because you're minding your business, but one of your friends acts stupid, so then everybody gets thrown out. I didn't have to have I done that before? Have I went out with a group of friends and stuff? Sure. But it was a lot better when I didn't have to. So that's kind of what you may have to end up doing in order to have a social life. But yeah, other than that, make sure you join the Discord. It's going to be down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. Until next time, I will see you. Take care.